All right, how's it going, folks? And this, you know, something about me, I find it weird. When you spend too much time with your loved one, which is your girlfriend or your partner, you tend not to think about or think deeply or analyze, or people may say, what was the word? Philosophy or things like that. But when I have my spare time, I do tend to think about this sort of stuff. Oh gosh, thanks. Oh gosh, okay. Thank you. And yes, I know it's nice haircut just for the interview. Sorry, just applying for the comments, that's all. I think this topic right now, many countries in the world are fighting for, and fighting for which regime or which authoritarian or the area that they would like to look at into. Now, before I like to talk about this, those have no idea what it's about. It's talking about majority or minority. What does that mean? Now, minority, uplift, empower minority group, destroy all the tribalism, and as well uplift them and hold them and fight for their rights. Sounds familiar. That's human rights. And that is usually first world countries. I like that. And those who normally follows that usually has good human right ladder. Right? So I'm trying to scroll down and figure out which one it is. I know Twinsy, I know that. By country. I was going through the other day. And the funny thing about that is, okay, you know what? Let's just find out the top 10. Okay, see ya, man. Good night. Is the one is on the rise, and particularly known is usually the social for China, right? And China, it's about the empower the majority as minority has to behave or has to obey and submit what the country interests, like the majority. Now, with majority of people. Now, I know the fact that China has the restraining with the tribalism and try to be good behavior, not walk like crossing the street. Wanting the whole majority all in at this time, but it really disempowers the minority group, right? Whether if you're LGBT, whether you are the Muslim ethnic, whether you're religious ethnic background, it doesn't really meet the values of the government, right? When I talk about that, it's like religion creates humbleness. It doesn't drive people to drive extra, even money hungry, greed, materialistic, and things like that. Yeah, I know you saw the last phone, and China is authoritarian, and one of the worst internet freedom or freedom in one of the world's worst. Right, and as you guys know, they don't have Google or Facebook or things like that. And wanting to control and does not want to have this sort of dysfunctional values or behavior, all right, to end in this country or form or spread into the majority. Now, on the Western world, we want the minority, as the majority has to behave a certain way. Political correctness, right? And as well, we have a lot more going through, right? Especially with what's going on with the Me movement or things like that. And I'm trying to use extra light, see if it's a lot better. Oh, that looks bad. So that's why I said the reason why I make this video is because most of the countries, especially right now, countries in Africa or Ecuador in South America, wanting to China is spreading this their technology and how the authoritarian surveillance technology to their country, right? Now, when you have that, it's the some country has their own interests, whether they put their political agenda or perhaps reduce crime or perhaps what the Ecuador is just saying that monitor natural disaster or things like that in a lifetime, right? The thing about the tribalism, abolishing the tribalism, was something that I've learned in the sociology class, which is under the Goffman's theory. Now, the Goffman theory talks about the repair. What was it called again? Man, sometimes when you're studying so so long and gosh. So Goffman theory, it's tribalism, tribal repair, and there's one more thing. What was it called? Stigma. So how do you overcome a stigma, and how do you overcome it? And I remember I was doing assessment regards to this. So what's defined as a stigma, or what's behind the social theory? So it's a Goffman's social theory, and the feminists or perhaps the university, they love to use theories, right? Because it's being studied, right? So when you have that, what are the areas can you break down the stigma? So break down the stigma, how do you repair it? And the tribal, and how do you destroy that? So by doing that, it's abolish the whole thing. What China's doing is restraining it, right? So not abolishing it, but they're trying to do it in a way causes consequences, right? They have cameras or some recording devices, surveillance to record it. Now abolishing this is like tribalism. How do you break down the stigma? Is whether they use teaching or perhaps they'll use political correctness or genders or celebrities and gender quotas and things like that. Right? And then, the two things that is most powerful thing is that the surveillance, right? Now you see a lot of people who use blue tack or they cover their webcam camera on their laptops or computers, right? Because there's reports saying that they're actually activated to go through. So our surveillance devices is constantly surveillance us without acknowledgement. Now the Eastern one, your surveillance, but everyone knows about it, right? So what is the Western world actually is banging on the Eastern world, especially the China one, is be saying that you cannot just you violating the freedom of rights and things like that, blah 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 blah, and you go through it. Now those who are there's a fight along with this AI, with the surveillance camera and everything, with the AI cameras and perhaps implementing this AI or the social credit, is to monitor or allow other regimes to practice in their country what's best for their country instead of following the human right. Because what happens with the human right model is the fact that every single country is, what's that word called? Same, homogeneous. I think that's how you say it. Yep, homogeneous. Right. So there's not much. That's the word. Homogeneous. Is that how you say it? I don't know, but that's the word for it. And it's same alike. So what is the difference between the UK and Australia? What's the difference between Canada and US and things like that? By simply following the human right ladder to try achieving it, you're most likely having a same culture. You destroyed your tribalism, you destroy culture, you destroy traditional, because you have to fit for the narrative, fight for the minority to get in, or marginalized group to get in, right? And where there's, what German did when they accept 1 million Syrians is that instead of saying Christmas, they call it Xmas, right? I'm pretty sure you've heard of Xmas. Will you make another video tomorrow? Maybe, I don't know what's in my head. But if you see the Eastern culture, the human rights is very, very low, right? Low ranking. Now it could be. I'll show you the map here. See the camera. All right. So pretty much the redder the color is on this map, is the more freedom, the higher the human rights is, right? I'm surprised Mongolia has pretty high than China, and as well. Well, as you can see, I will have to say the least freedom, no data. There you go. Most of the countries, a lot of the countries in the African countries, right? I think the South Americans has a lot better, a lot more colorful than the Africans. And you got the Russian, as you can see, the Russians, China. I see the Middle East. So you see that, right? When you see that, what is going on right now is going to be technology war between who are they going to accept the first. Now, right now, you have this China's going through the cheap. They have the technologies going around the world, whether people saying the Huawei thing or anything like that. But the China thing, it's a lot more cheaper, a lot more efficient. The Western one costs a lot more money for the 5G. So for this to roll out, it has to be fully under-equipped for the 5G. Everyone's just racing for 5G. You can do a 4G, right? Because China's already doing it right now. But it's not 100%, right? They're still working on it now. But country will definitely get to it and things like that. Now, many countries will jump on board on this, but the Western world wants to fight for the alliance. Now, this is what the video is about. So, at the end of the day, whether people say this is 1984, this is George Orwellian, or some sort of stuff, I'm not saying what's good or bad, because every single country got to choose which one they got to choose. I don't know the Western method, right? Now, we know it's just got to be smartphones, but I'm not sure. But everything is being monitored, right? So, as you can see with the Me Too movement, or perhaps with the recent one, I'm just giving an example to try to normalize recordings, right? The last couple of years, if we said one word wrong. So if I say in this video, if I say one word wrong in the future, if that would bite me up the ass, right? That will have consequences, right, with the Me Too movement, or perhaps politicals, politicians, or whatever what I said in the past will bite me on the ass, because it is recorded without your acknowledgement. You can pull it out. But this is the consequences is on the spot. If you have done something wrong, it'll happen straight away, right? So that's one good thing about this or that. So this could use against you. And I think these two tools, we'll see how things goes. I'm not sure how the future, the Western, how they're going to develop this. It's going to be smartphones as well, by the looks of it. I honestly thought we're going to have the ID cards or the microchips, which they are happening in the Scandinavian countries. But I think we are most likely move towards the smartphones, because technically infrastructure, you don't have to spend much money, because you buy a phone, and phones keeps getting better and better and better. And the face, and plus they can pretty much get your face recognition and fingerprint recognition by on the phone. Where China, they can do that, or perhaps you guys may not know, if he landed in Shanghai airport, or perhaps what's the other airport, Shenzhen. Right now, if you land at that airport, you got to get your face scanned and your finger scan straight away. But here, the silent devices, they already got everything all of ours, because we use Apple or Samsung or Android, whatever, they got this function now. I'm glad I'm still using a brick phone. So yeah, anywho, you still there, Calvin? Are you responding, Calvin? I can't hear you, Calvin. Will you make another video tomorrow? Yeah, you're there, huh? Okay, cool. Any videos you want me to make? I don't know. Is there any videos on my mind I want to make? No, it's 10 o'clock. I don't know. Geez, you say yeah all the time. Okay. I don't know what to make next video. But the Eastern world, the human rights ranking is pretty low or authoritarian. I need to figure out what sort of videos should I make. Gosh, but you're going to sleep anyway. Good night. All right, I'm probably not making another video because I don't know what to make next, honestly. Actually, I do. I got one. I got one video to make.